Welcome back to the Adrenal Fatigue Podcast. It's Angela here, and I'm here with my co-host, Danielle Zies.
Hello, everyone.
And we're really excited to have on a very special guest who now works within our collective. We're so excited to introduce Tina Pruitt.
Hi, everybody.
And we're excited to talk to Tina all about her journey and what brought her here to where she is today. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Tina.
Oh, thank you for asking me. I'm excited. It's been 2 years, so there's a lot to share.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's fun about this here on the podcast, we haven't really shared any customer success journeys. So I think this will be really fun for our listeners to get an inside look into our Fatigue to Fabulous program and see what's possible if you are struggling with burnout, any nervous system issues, fatigue, anything going on with your hormones. And so this will be a fun conversation. I think a really hope-inspiring conversation for a lot of our listeners. And we're really excited to have it today, Tina.
Thank you. I'm really excited to share because it's been life-changing.
Yeah. So let's start there.
Oh, yeah, let's start there. Tell us a little bit about what life was like. Maybe take us back to the year, remind us the year, and take us back to where you were physically, mentally before you found us here.
So it was 2 years ago. And when I found you on the podcast, I had been in burnout for about 7 weeks. And by burnout, barely being able to get from the bed to the bathroom or from the bed to the table and back to the bed. JP was washing my hair and drying my hair and cooking and cleaning and doing everything. I would say I was about 5% energy when I found you guys. And when I heard the podcast, I'd been sick for 21 years and I had done a lot of work to get well and nothing worked. And when I heard the first podcast, I was like, oh my word, they get it. They know exactly what's wrong with me. And I made the appointment to speak with someone and I met with Angela. And so really I had no life prior to that. And I went in just hoping that I might get one answer. Just anything that would make me feel better.
And that's where it all began. So leading up to that before, and I know because you were in the full burnout, like you just mentioned, that 5% energy for about 7 weeks, but this had been going on longer. And so over the time that you were struggling, what had you tried or like what kind of support had you reached out for before? And what was that like for you?
So I had been sick for 21 years. I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, and I had been treated solely for those two things. And I had done cortisone shots, lots and lots of medicine. I went to pain management and had to be weaned off of way too much medicine. I had done physical therapy, done massage. I had done a few Reiki sessions. And that's really where I ran out of things to try. Lots of prayer, lots of hope, lots of begging, lots of doctors going back and forth, but no answers, just no answers.
It's so frustrating. And I know so many of our listeners can relate. And you were more holistic minded going into this. You had tried some of the energy stuff, some of the Reiki. And so you were dabbling a little bit in both worlds, but maybe not fully, right?
And I think for me, one of the things, Reiki had always stuck out to me. I didn't understand it, but I knew that it was one thing that I had done that I felt really different afterwards. I would go for a massage, right? And the massage was really painful, but I felt better after. But I needed to go back for more massages, but they were very painful. Reiki was so relaxing and so calming. And so it wasn't painful for me to go and do. And then the effects of it lasted. It seemed to last quite a while. Problem was I couldn't afford it. I was on full disability, so I didn't have much income and I couldn't afford to go and do that. So that was tough. It was tough.
Yeah, to find something that's working and then having it feel out of reach.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. So interesting. I'm curious, like you had been through so much struggle up until that point, and then you found us on the podcast. And then you had a call, I believe, with us. You saw one of our trainings and you wanted to book a call. And I'm curious, like what made you curious What was it that you thought actually how we could actually be the ones to help you after all that you've been through and after all the specialists and doctors and everything that you had tried previous?
I think when you talked about things, I realized that it was like I was treated for the pain in my back. I was treated for anxiety. I was treated for depression. I was treated for all these individual symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But when I listened to the class, I saw that it was something that was a whole system, my whole body. And that became a very interesting part of it for me, because I thought it is. And that's how I felt when I heard your first podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. It's my whole self.
That's such a good point. Yeah. You just
So
saw the importance of getting to the root and
yes,
it was more than just treating the symptom. Yeah.
yes. Because I thought I was at the root when I had found out I had fibromyalgia. I thought that was the root of the problem.
and that's the frustrating thing, is so many people get these diagnoses and then it's just managing it long term. There's no really like why. There's no why.
Yeah.
Sometimes we could drive ourselves crazy asking why, but sometimes when it is something physical and there's more to it, and it's, just don't know who to go to get more answers when there has to be more of an answer than the solution provided, that can be really discouraging, frustrating, and overwhelming.
And overwhelming. Exactly. And that's what happened to me. I was at my doctor appointment, and I really liked my PA. Was fabulous with me. But my last appointment with her, she said, you're going to have to learn to live with this. This is what it is, and it's not going to get any better. And I was so angry, and I was so sad, and I didn't know if I wanted to scream or cry. So I just cried, and I left. And because I've never believed that there wasn't hope. I've always thought there has to be an answer out there. There has to be.
Yeah. I want to thank you for sharing, first of all, because I know even just thinking of those days, it brings up some of that pain, but I know somebody out there listening, maybe multiple people out there listening, have felt this feeling. And so it actually gives me goosebumps that we can have this conversation in a public space like this. There's nothing worse than getting a hopeless response. There's no hope. You're just going to have to manage it.
Yeah. From someone that you trust. And I know that it was not meant in an unkind way. I think she's a great doctor. She did great things for me. She tried everything. No matter what I asked her to do, she tried. But in the end, she didn't have any hope. And you cannot get well when you work with someone who has no hope for you.
That's a good way to put it. And this is maybe a nice time before we get into the program and how things shifted for you, because there's such a positive outcome to this sad start to the story.
Yeah.
I think it's a good moment to empower people that we have so much more support and power behind us than sometimes we remember. And whether that be spiritual or universal support, or support from practitioners that we don't even know exist yet, right? There's a whole other world. And this is what brought Angela and myself into this industry. I suffered with gut issues, and I would go to the doctor and I was just like not happy with the responses I was getting. I knew there had to be something more. And for me, it was a simple dietary tweak that changed everything in my whole life. And I had to know more, but like, why was it so difficult to get that information? Was it going to be managing the symptoms I was having with more and more medication and no answers for the rest of my life? And I truly feel like so many people get on that path. Since I'm talking about gut stuff, I see this so much with people with chronic autoimmune inflammatory conditions within their GI. And it's just, it's difficult to make changes that could actually change your life and manage your symptoms so much more, like without having to get really invasive surgeries or live with chronic pain or really irritating, like frustrating flare-ups. When you could change a couple things, like I'm talking about gut stuff, by changing like the hard things in your diet. And it's hard because maybe you've lived this way for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And now it's hard to change the way that you've always eaten, but there could be so much freedom on the other side. It's just one example, right? It's one example of something that we're not getting the full picture on. But there's so much power when we start to bring in all these little bits of the foundations that contribute to our wellness, whether it's food, emotional stuff, water, exercise, sleep, all of these little things, fun, laughter, relationships, business, it all trickles in. And so maybe now we shift into where things shifted for you when you brought into this holistic, getting more to the root approach to your wellness.
I remember when I first started, so it was around Christmas time, and I think we've talked about this before. I joined the program, the Platinum program, and it was Christmas. And I joined and I got an email. Hey, we're so glad you're in. Christmas is coming. We go on vacation tomorrow for 10 days. And I was like, what? You're going on vacation? Like, how can you go on vacation? I just started. And, but what was so interesting looking back at that moment is that was the beginning of one of the parts of the beginning of my healing, right? Is that I had to calm down. I had to be still. I had to be patient. I had to stop forcing everything and just let things be. And I was not used to that. Even as I was sick all those years, I was still going all the time, constantly fatigued, constantly in pain, till that 7 weeks when my body said, nope, you're not doing that anymore. So my body stopped, but my brain was still going. And so the only thing I could do in those 10 days was go through the modules, right? And I think at the time you only released like one module at a time. So like I did the introduction and the very basic things. I was forced to slow down. And I remember in March, Angela said to me, I can't believe how calm you are. And I thought, so I think learning to be calm from the meditations and just, I don't know, I could tell right away. I think I started feeling better the first week. And by the second week, I really saw a big difference. And I had just done a few things, removed perfumes and fragrances off of my body. And I'd stopped wearing makeup. I hadn't really been wearing makeup anyway, but I just said, I'm not putting anything else on my skin. I started doing the adrenal cocktail, which helped my digestion a lot, which I don't understand that, but it really made a big difference. And yeah, that's where I started.
Mm.
That's where I
We
started.
don't realize, but adrenals and minerals are so important for digestion.
And I ate so poorly. Like I did not realize that I ate so poorly. But you do that when you're tired. When you're tired and you're
running on fumes and you're sleeping well. It's such predictive of how we eat too and what we crave.
Yeah.
And to remember all those things are so connected.
Yep. Yeah. So connected. And at the time, just to look back at 21 years ago, when I started the program, I'd been on Ambien CR, which is the 12.5 for 21 years. It's a 10-day drug.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey the last 2 years, but let's go to today when I don't take anything to sleep at all. And it's been tapping exercises from Angela and a conversation with Danielle and a lot of just refocusing myself around bedtime, like going through trauma things. I sleep. I lay down at night and I'm asleep in 10, 15 minutes. I didn't even remember what it felt like to fall asleep. And I didn't even know that. But now I know what that feels like. Instead of that being a trigger for whatever was going on in my head, I just fall asleep now. And if I wake up in the night, I go right back to sleep. It's just
like we always say, like when hormones are off, like everything is off. And so start to actually just take little measures. It's not like a ton of things, right? Like when you really look at the program, it's not like we're having you like bend over backwards and do back bends and back flips. It's these simple little things and like how profound they can be.
Yes. Yes. It's like very profound.
It's just, they compound on each other. They build on each other. And it's just amazing how quickly you can see results. And that's what we notice with our clients is like, oh, that one thing you told me like changed like my whole morning. Yeah, it can. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
And I think because we don't have any answers, we're getting medicine. We're not getting answers. And every time I would go to the doctor, I would think I'm going to get an answer today. I got more answers over the years from my chiropractors. I moved several times since I've been ill. And so I've had several different chiropractors, but every one of them And because I believe they were all very holistic minded, right? They were the ones that I got the most information from. And I still see a chiropractor regularly. It's necessary for me. But not understanding that that I was in perimenopause, that my hormones were mass 5 years into fibromyalgia, I had a full hysterectomy. And for the first year, I felt really good. Maybe even the first year and a half, I felt really good. And I was like, this is the answer to my problems. And then it wasn't, but I did not know that's what it was. I couldn't put it back to that. Now, what I've learned in the program through you and Danielle and through Claire, I've learned about hormones and how they affect our body. And I'm like, holy cow, this is what, this just sent me down a whole nother path. And then because I was in so much pain and I couldn't walk, I was using a cane. And at times I was using a wheelchair if I was out. And you have to remember, I'm 42, 43 years old. I was a very active woman. I was no slouch.
Sure.
And I was doing cortisone shots because it was literally the only way I could function. 7 years of cortisone shots, 6 years of cortisone shots. And it really did a lot of damage, tremendous amount of damage, created insulin resistance and a million other things. So
it's amazing what these Band-Aid solutions are doing for people. And it's really sad because of the way that our system is set up, we're believing and we're trusting our doctors who they're just following a system too. They're just following what they're told. But I think we're putting a way too much trust for them to have all the answers when they just don't. And the best doctors will tell you, if you want to know more about that, go find someone who works with adrenal fatigue, because that's not my specialty, or I don't know much about that. It would be nice if they would just say, if you're interested, if you're curious, go seek out an integrative practitioner, because that's not my wheelhouse. Because the thing is, we're just being taught that, hysterectomy will fix it. It might prove it things for a while. Or we've seen that with birth control or antidepressants or even some thyroid medications, right? It might allow your numbers to go down, but is it changing your actual symptoms? Is it making you feel better? Is it helping you lose weight? Probably not. Most often we see that that's not the case. And it's really sad, because it just creates more downstream of negative effects in the future. So it's really unfortunate.
You're right. And that's why we see with a lot of people doing, especially like the sex hormone replacement therapy, if you don't change your life, what are you propping up? Some of these things, they definitely have their time and place. And we can definitely say that, but the lifestyle bit has to come into play. And even with the cortisone shots, one thing that came to my mind is I know a couple examples of people doing these chronic cortisone shots who are like really overweight, but the diet is never mentioned. The lifestyle and they're doing physio, mind you, but the weight situation and all that extra load on the joint is not really being addressed, which is a huge exacerbator of the pressure that we're putting on that already sore joint that's having issues. And it's just one example of, we're just looking at the one thing and the one solution, maybe a couple little things around it, and we needing to bring into the whole big picture. Some of the stuff that sometimes we don't want to face or we're avoiding because it's hard, but it's worth it on the other side, especially when you start, dealing with more and more symptoms and imbalances and not getting answers.
And a lot of us, when we first start getting sick, whether it's, for me, what I learned later was that I have post-viral syndrome. And that's what caused the fibromyalgia. And that's what caused the chronic fatigue. And the massive amount of stress that I'd had in my life for several decades is what really drove the fibromyalgia. Prior to that crash when I was 41, I'd really never been to the doctor. I wasn't sick. Right? So you don't have I didn't have anything to fall back on to say I should see a holistic doctor or an integrative practitioner, because I didn't even know what that was. I had never even heard of that. And so if I got sick, I went to the doctor and I asked them, and they treated whatever it was and sent me home. And I really was, you just don't know. You just don't know. And there are a lot of answers out there that have nothing to do with medicine. So I think, like I said to you about the calming down, I started doing the meditations. It was hilarious because I could meditate for 10 seconds and that was like the max. And I remember Angela said to me, that's fine. And then one day she said to me, you don't have to it was something, this isn't word for word, but it was something like, you don't have to lay on the floor with your eyes closed for an hour for it to be meditation. You can go for a walk. You could do yoga. I'm like, I couldn't do yoga. You can do yoga, go do yoga. Just trying to help me find a way out of myself.
Mhm.
And I remember going to yoga class and I did 10 minutes of an hour class. Most of it, I just laid on the mat. But within a month or so, I was doing 2 classes a week. And I wasn't always laying on the mat. And then I was doing full classes. So,
After
I
20
think
years of
after, yeah,
20 years. So powerful.
yeah. And not because I hadn't tried to do things before, I had, but they were too hard on my body. And the yoga was gentle stretching yoga. That's what I did with
Beautiful.
an instructor, a yoga teacher who understood that her logo is yoga for everybody.
Right.
And so whatever it is you do in every class, she says, you just modify as you need. You need help, I'll help you. And so you never feel bad. And that was a real blessing. And getting out of the house, I was able to get out of the house a little.
And that's a
So
beautiful way to
beautiful.
shift your energy and kind of stagnant energy and lift your spirit, which is so important, especially when you're down and out for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I just wanted to preface about the program because we mentioned Fatigue to Fabulous, but we haven't talked about it too much. We talked about some of the awesomeness that has unfolded for you once you started it. But I wanted to share for those who weren't really up to speed with what Fatigue to Fabulous is, basically a 3-tiered program that we offered originally. So we always have had the membership of Fatigue to Fabulous, where you can join, you can get access to these modules that Tina spoke of, which include so many resources for so many different things that will help you get aligned and balanced in your body. And basically the other tiers, the gold and platinum, bring in the more one-to-one support if you need it, whether that's working with Angela and myself or working with Angela and myself and our team. We bring in our integrative team, pairing you with the right medical focused practitioner to support you with your unique needs. And Tina, you mentioned you did the platinum, which then means for all of you out there listening that Tina had regular access to Angela, myself, and a medical practitioner as well. And you truly needed it. And you needed that up-leveled support to get that one-on-one touch point.
Yep.
And many do. But if we could just come back to just the platform in general, the membership dashboard, what was your first impression when you started working through those materials? Because that's what you had access to during that little break when you joined during the holidays.
I thought it was easy. And I was so tired that when I started it, I was so tired that just reading it was exhausting. That I thought, I can't read. I don't read anything because I'm so tired. But I was able to just sit in a comfortable chair and listen to the video. And the reading was so minimal, right? It was so simple, but it was very to the point. So the simplicity of it is what I loved, because I just could not, if it had been so detailed, I would not have been able to do it. But you had everything outlined so beautifully, and it was more like bullet points, right? To me, that's how I thought of it. It's more like bullet points with all the information I needed and no extra fluff. And that was the part that I thought was so great. And I learned really well that way. So I really liked that. And I love that there's videos mixed in, the videos that help with the learning and explanation of what things are. And it was great. And then the other thing that was really good for me was the recipes. So I was not cooking. JP had been cooking for several years, probably 4 or 5 years. He'd been cooking mostly through our whole relationship, but that last 4 or 5 years, he'd been doing most of the cooking, but it was the grocery lists. I just bought everything on the first grocery list. And I just said, I can eat anything in this cabinet. I can put anything that's in this cabinet on any of that. Simplified that for me. And then that broadened my variety, right? So it broadened the variety, and then it pushed out the stuff that I shouldn't be having, which for me, a lot of people talk about, I have to give up this and I have to give up that. Just add the right things and the other stuff will push itself right out, because you'll realize how bad you feel when you eat the stuff that that really isn't good for you. It's not that it's that it's just not good for you. It's not nutritious because it's just empty calories.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. Very true. So there was a lot there within the dashboard to help you get started, and it wasn't overwhelming.
No, it was not overwhelming. No. And easy to navigate, really easy to navigate. Like I said, when you don't feel well, you really need it to be easy to navigate. And I needed that. And the exercises were easy, but they were very pointed. Like there was a purpose. Everything in the dashboard has a purpose, and each thing builds on the next. Mm-hmm. So that was another thing I really liked.
Yeah. We really intentionally built it out that way.
Yeah.
That was your intention.
Design. We know that people come to us very overwhelmed that they really can't even, that's why we used to actually drip the content, because it was too much for people to handle, and seeing the 7 modules was too much. And so we play with things over the years, and we've fine-tuned, and we've even simplified, because we know oftentimes less is more. And we like to make this process as simple as possible and step by step, so that it really helps us commit and know that we can do it. And the biggest thing is staying out of overwhelm. That's I think the most important thing. Because we can't learn, we can't make any changes in our mindset or in our lives and our behaviors if we're in the place of overwhelm.
It's funny. I remember thinking, I'm calm. Like on the outside, I was calm, but on the inside, I was never calm. Yeah. And I'm sitting here now, I have my arms on a table, so you might not be able to tell. If I sit normally, like this is how I was sitting when I started. And how I know that is I've seen photos of myself from that time. And here's how I was, shoulders to ears. Yeah. And I don't do that anymore. It's incredible to me. I saw this one picture and I'm like, I look like a box. And I remember that moment they took that picture. I was in pain. I was so tired. We were at a wedding. It was October, right before I crashed. And wow.
Years and years of trauma on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual level. And you just start to shrink and to shrink your energy, because you just want to stop being in pain. So we shrink so tight so we don't have to feel. And it's just part of our process. And that unwinding is uncomfortable at times, but so important. And I think you said it well. Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful, little tip for everybody. If you're wanting to regulate your nervous system and start working on that today. One thing you can start doing is set a timer. And every time that timer goes off, you see where your shoulders are.
Yep. Drop those shoulders. You can wear earrings then, right?
Yeah. Take those shoulders back and down and open up your heart, open up your chest. And just even that posture can change your whole mood. So beautiful tip. I love it. I want to go a few more things before we close, but I want to ask you and maybe you've already touched on this, but there's anything that you want to add, if there's something about the program that, you got that you did not expect going in.
I got permission from you and Danielle to believe that I could be well.
Wow. Yeah. And then it's happening. It's really happening.
Yeah. It's hard I need
feel
a breath
in my heart space when you say that.
Yeah. I always hoped I would be well. I always wanted to be well. I tried really hard to be well. Nothing changed. And then it did. And then it just kept getting better and better. And I was one of those complex cases that needed a practitioner. And without you, I would not have found the right practitioner for me. I needed somebody who was tough. I needed somebody who wasn't going to pull any punches, because I was really sick and I did not even know how ill I was. I was ill right down to my mitochondria was just almost non-existent working. I don't know how you say that. So damaged from the medicine and the cortisone and my body just not producing the things it needed. And she had said, if you don't do this, you will not see your 63rd birthday. And I turned 63 last month. And and I would say for me, I'm still at about 95%. And Danielle had made a comment to me, what if that's good enough? And I was like, what a concept. And then I thought, it's not that I'm not going to continue to work, but it's, my goodness, girl, you've improved 90%. You like have a life again. It's okay. You don't have to think of yourself as a sick person, because who in the world doesn't have something, right? It's, I don't know, that strive for perfection has been a real problem for me in my life. And I've really worked on letting go of that. And I was still struggling with that health anxiety, right? So I've really let go of that. And it has just lightened the load so much. But I think when you have people around you who have seen people heal, right? You and the two of you have seen people heal. You've seen them heal spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. You've watched it. So when you say to us, if you do, this will happen, that you're speaking the truth. And I do some of the coaching and for the Happy Hormone Club. And it's really interesting because there are just some people that are so stuck on the details. They just can't move forward. And it's hard to watch because you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah,
you've got to get out of your own way, and you've got to let somebody else be the expert in the process. It's the process that we need. We have the information. We don't know what the process is. And that's what, when you do a program like this, the integration of it is what you're paying for. It's what you're buying into. You're for someone to give you the steps, right? Because you could do it, but you got to do it in the right order. You've got to do it in a way that makes sense to your body, to your mind, to your spirit.
So I love that you said that too. And one thing we noticed early on, because the membership, of course, it's the lower end way for people to access the program. And so that's always been one of the more popular programs just because it's accessible. And what we noticed is that we've had people in there for so long and they love the community.
Yeah.
But if they're not doing the work, and that's the thing, we stand in our own way. We have all the excuses in the world. I think we all know we have all the excuses in the world as to why we're not going to do something.
Yeah.
If we want one. Like they're there. There's always those excuses. And I think that's what's beautiful about the one-to-one. Once you get into the gold and the platinum program, is like you have that accountability and you have more of that investment. Like you've put you've drawn that line in the sand and you said, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you've taken that investment and put that flag in, you're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's where we also see people getting stuck in the membership, is like they need more clarity, or their cases are a bit more complex. Like they would get amazing results, but they're not able to actually integrate the stuff that they're learning because they're overwhelmed. They've got their excuses, and they could benefit from a little bit more clarity as to where. So it just clarifies where they spend their precious energy. Because when you're tired, and this is a question I wanted to come back to for you too, Tina, is when you're tired, you feel like you have to be doing all the things for things to come into alignment. And and I know you worked hard. You've worked hard for a couple years now to get where you are.
Yeah.
But when we talk about like the work that you actually had to do within the program and how it was overall, would you say it was as hard as you thought, looking back?
No, no, I worked really hard for 21 years to get well. And what I did here was I followed the instructions that you gave me when when you look, to me, I look at the program as an instruction manual. Okay. Yeah. So here's the manual. Here's what you do. And this is the order you do it in. When I met with you about food, I did what you told me. When I met with Angela about mindset and working through she worked through a lot of trauma with me. And there were many times that she would say, what do you want to talk about today? And I would say, this has been on my mind and blah, blah, blah. And we would talk about it. And I'm like, she would say something and I'd be like, oh, I can let that go. Okay. And I did, because I'm like, I can let that go. Again, do you remember that?
The permission. Yeah, I do remember moments. Those are really cool.
Like, yes. Oh, I can let that go. Like, I just have to let it go. And it's, I just have to eat the vegetables. Are you serious? Okay, so that to me, if you want to say what was the thing that surprised me the most? Eat vegetables.
Oh,
Eat vegetables for breakfast, eat them for lunch, eat them for dinner, have them for your snacks. Yeah, add in the meat, add in the what carbs, whatever you want to do. But I am telling you, it is the vegetables that made the difference. And when I miss that, like I have to just be really honest, November was my month to say, I'm just going to see where I'm at. I didn't eat a lot of vegetables. By the end of November, I was exhausted. Not exhausted like I was 2 years ago, but I could tell. So about, what is today, the 6th? So probably on about 8 days now of just back to vegetables. I feel like myself again. But it took, I just wanted to see what would it do. I wasn't like trying to be a smart aleck about it. Just, I wanted to see how much of a difference it made. Oh boy, big difference. It's things like that. But I looked at it like an instruction manual, and I just said from the very beginning, I'm 100% committed. Didn't mean I got it right all the time. It just meant I didn't quit. I did not quit.
Yeah.
I didn't quit. And it was, I thought it was easy. And I opened up everything. I have a friend who teaches Huga, and I got into that. And then I have a friend who is an aura reader, and I got into like personality things. And then I studied human design, and I'm just like having a ball. I'm learning about myself, things that I never knew. And I feel really free. And I would have never thought I would say those words.
You're like a butterfly, Tina.
Yeah.
What a transformation. I'm so grateful that you're here. Angela and myself are so grateful for you being here, sharing your story and sharing this hope with our listeners.
Yeah, thank you.
What an honor it was to watch you morphize in front of us. Like, it was just this beautiful unfolding and such a beautiful journey to watch you come back into yourself and come back into your body and be your truest, like your healthiest self. And it's just,
we've laughed together. We've cried together. We've really been through it. And
we have.
And I think that's what's so beautiful about the program is really like, there is so much hand holding, and we're in it with you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there's anybody out there listening who's, I want to know more. I'm interested in this, but I don't know. If there's anybody out there thinking about doing something like this, do you have any messages for them?
Do it. That would be my first thing. But if you've got questions, ask us. We'll answer your questions. But it's worth the money. I can tell you that, because that is one of the things we hear quite often is, oh, things cost money. It's so expensive. I don't understand why you charge for things. Well, you're charging for the experience. You're charging for the expertise. You're charging for all the work that goes into the modules. You're charging the coaching, and it's worth it. I can tell you that we had the top tier program, and it was worth every penny, and it was worth every sacrifice we made. And we had a lot of people gifted us money in that period to help us get through, because it was very fast and we didn't have access to our money at the time. We just said, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. And I've never regretted it, and neither has my husband. So I think if you have questions, ask. If you don't have any questions, this is a program you can trust. It works, and you'll get everything you need to get well.
Just how amazing is it that you're able to work now?
Yeah. And with you.
Yeah. But also with your Reiki, you have your own business, your own local business that you're running now. And imagine trying to do this before with the capacity that you had.
Yeah. And what done either.
And maybe that's another thing that we didn't think of before, but what it opened you up for, the things that you maybe wouldn't have known that you would have missed out on had you kept walking that same path.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I have a small Reiki business, and it's just local, and I love it. It's been one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done. And I love working with the two of you. That was something that we had talked about, that I had manifested. I'd written down all these things, and I don't know. I kept thinking to myself, I don't know why they would want me to work with them. I have no idea, but I just kept writing. And when you messaged me and said, hey, we'd like to talk to you about working with us, I was like, oh my gosh. And then when you asked me what what I wanted to do. This is what you would like me to do. It was like everything that was on that page or those 2 pages. And here you guys had been thinking about it for a long time too, just the right timing.
And really to share your genius, Tina, which is you have such a strong level of commitment to what you say. To when you commit to something, you go for it 100%. And that's hard for a lot of people. And we don't expect people to you don't even have to go 100% to get results. Right. But the cool thing is that Tina is now our success and accountability coach. So she is actually handholding and supporting people with the integration, which is, we know, the hardest part. That is essentially what you are paying for. You're paying to have the whole system in your hands, but also to get the integration, get to the support, to actually follow through with the plan. Because that is, many of us know what to do. It's actually doing it. That's the hard part. So you get to really shine with your genius in the program by guiding people through that process and helping them get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And so it's just so fun.
I thank you. I thank you so much. And I know that is part of my calling, right? That is part of my purpose that I'm supposed to be doing. And I am so grateful that I have the chance to do it. Because how often at 63 years old does somebody get to start something that is so aligned to their life purpose? Mm-hmm. Especially when they've had 21 years of not working and not being able to do those things.
Helping people who are now in your same position or similar, or just are funky hormones right now, and they don't have to be dealing with just like a couple things, inflammation, and they're dealing with gut stuff, and they just want some help because the answers out there are not the answers we need in the mainstream. So, and
I like what you just said. They don't have to be as sick as I was, but I think what's important for people to know is I've been that sick. I've gotten through all of that. I can help you with the small things if you're willing to do the work. I can't do the work for you. You have to do it, but I can help you. There's almost nothing you can throw at me that I haven't gone through. Right. So
not 21 years.
I'm not perfect. And my daughter-in-law calls me the Great Oz, which I think is hilarious, but I am a problem solver and I will help you solve your problems.
100%. Yeah. That's why we love having you as part of the Happy Hormone Club. And what's really cool, I think, and just a closing thought is like this, the perimenopause is really probably where you were at when this all started 20
Yes, it was.
So now that we have this, Happy Hormone Club is moving more towards the same work we've always been doing, but really catering to that audience. That's time in our lives, that stage in our lives where we're really struggling in the hormone balance, and we're dealing with aging parents and children. And even now, so having children later, we're dealing with younger children. I'm 43 now with a 3-year-old. But I think it's interesting, right? If you could help women not go to the place that you had to go because you didn't have right answers, what a gift that you're giving back.
What a gift that you don't have to go through. And I'm watching people do that now. And it's just shocking to me that there were answers that none of us are getting.
Yeah, but you have to commit and you have to invest in your own health because, unfortunately, your insurance probably isn't going to pay for something like that. Thank you so much, Tina, for sharing your story, for being with us.
Thank you for asking me.
And we want to just let everyone know who does want something like this, that we have a really amazing special going on for December, where we're going to be giving away our signature Fatigue to Fabulous membership for an amazing deal. And so this is lifetime access. So it's over $1,000 to have access for the entire year. And you're getting this at like a fraction of that cost.
So right now, if you go to the show notes, or if you go to our website, www.happyhormoneclub.com, you can click on the link for Fatigue to Fabulous and get access to that special end of the year offer. And that being said, we just chatted about all the amazing upgrade options that Tina went through. Those are still available. So once you're in the program, if you do want to learn more, we can hop on a call and kind of coach you in the right direction if that's something you want to know more about. But this is a really unique, once in a lifetime, dare I say, but it truly is once in a lifetime opportunity to get access to this dashboard, lifetime access, and not have any commitment with more membership fees as we wrap up the year. So it's our gift to you. And this program is a beautiful place to start, as Tina has mentioned. And so check out the link in bio, head to our website if you want to learn more. And Tina, we're just so grateful to have you. It's an honor and privilege to have you on the podcast and to get to work alongside you now. Your transformation is so inspiring. And it's a testament to what is possible when you believe that you are meant for something more and worth it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for my life, helping me get my life back And I can't remember which one of you Danielle, I was on a call with you when JP stuck his head in and said, "Thank you for giving me my wife back."
Oh my gosh. And I still think about it and cry all the time. It was such a sweet little moment.
It was precious. Yeah, it was a sweet moment.
Core memory.
Yep. It's possible, people. It is possible.
Yeah. Love you, ladies, and love you all out there. Thank you for listening to the show. We look forward to chatting with you sometime soon.
And happy holidays.